Picture yourself at 90, not surrounded by trophies, not standing on a stage, just alone, sitting in silence, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself one question: why didn't I try? That's the regret no one sees coming. Not the regret of failure, the regret of hesitation. The kind that creeps in years later when the noise has faded, and all that's left is the story you chose not to live. 80% of people say they feel stuck, but you're not stuck. You're paused, and a pause is not the end. It's the breath before the breakthrough. What if the version of you almost became is still possible? Most people don't quit because they lack ambition. They quit because they believe the voice that sounds like truth, but is really just fear wearing your voice. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It's too late. It's too far. It's too hard. It's too much. But what if that voice is wrong? What if you've been negotiating with a lie? Because when you let fear write your story, it becomes your truth. You aim at nothing, and you hit it with terrifying precision. So let me ask you, if someone read your life like a novel, would they stop at chapter 5 and say, I guess this is how it ends? None, but because even you know, deep down, this isn't how your story ends. You've been waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, a sign that says go. But those things don't show up for people who wait. They show up for people who move. The world tells you success looks like confidence, charisma, smooth speeches, polished routines. But that's not what it looks like when it starts. It looks like trembling hands, like shaky steps, like uncertain decisions backed by unreasonable belief. Because the people who changed the world, they weren't handed a map, they drew one, with doubt on their back and fire in their chest. And maybe your dream isn't gone. Maybe it's just buried under years of silence, comparison, and fear. So today, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to refuse to stay paused. Because the pen is still in your hand. The plot is still unfolding. And this is not how your story ends. There's something they don't tell you about dreams. They don't die with failure. They die in waiting rooms. They die in the endless loop of maybe tomorrow. Because the real danger isn't chasing something and failing. The real danger is never chasing it at all. Most people don't stop because of what's in front of them. They stop because of what's inside them. The quiet voice that says, why even try? What if I fail again? What will they think if I fall flat? But ask yourself something else. What if you succeed? What if you become the version of yourself you barely let yourself imagine? What if every setback wasn't a sign to stop, but proof that you're still in the fight? Fear doesn't show up because you're weak. It shows up because you're close. And the most dangerous lies are the ones you believe because they sound like logic, but they're just dressed up doubt. Fear pretending to be realism. So let's interrupt that pattern. Someone with less talent, fewer chances, and more doubt than you is building the life you're still only talking about. Why? Because they made a move, and you're still making a plan. They got rejected, laughed at, mocked. But they kept swinging. Let me tell you about a man who didn't wait for the odds to even out. Dashrath Manji, a poor labourer in India. His wife fell ill, and the only hospital was on the other side of a mountain. She died because there was no road. So he picked up a hammer, a chisel, and he started carving through solid rock. Alone. People mocked him, told him he was wasting his life. But day after day, swing after swing, he kept going. For 22 years. And one day, the mountain moved, not because he was special, but because he refused to let pain become permission to quit. You don't need Everest to find your strength. You just need a reason. And if you haven't found yours yet, maybe that's the problem. You're trying to chase a dream without knowing why you must reach it. When you find that reason, the how shows up. When you stop looking for applause, progress shows up. When you stop waiting for courage and start swinging anyway, breakthrough shows up. So maybe your tool is belief. Maybe your mountain is doubt. But your swing, that's today's decision. To stop listening to fear. To stop negotiating with regret. To stop sitting in the waiting room of your own potential. Because no one is coming to hand you a dream. But you can still build it, one step, one swing, one breath at a time. And when it gets hard, and it will, say this: I am not finished yet. No one announces the moment your life changes. There's no music, no flashing light, no perfect sunrise. It happens in silence when no one is watching. When you're staring at a wall that's been standing in your way for too long. When the excuses sound tired. When even your own doubt starts to annoy you. And you whisper something simple. No more. That's not rage. That's not hype. That's power. Because that moment, when you decide that your story deserves a different ending, that's when the shift begins. Not when you get inspired, but when you get fed up. And the world might not see that line, but you feel it. A line between who you've been and who you choose to become. A line between survival and significance. Between waiting and moving. You don't need a life-changing event to find it. You don't need tragedy to wake up. But sometimes that's exactly what it takes. Aruna Sinha wasn't supposed to make headlines. She was supposed to disappear, a victim of violence, discarded by the world, pushed from a moving train, leg crushed, spine broken, the kind of pain that tells you to give up before you even get the chance to ask, why me? But in that hospital bed, she made a decision that didn't make sense to anyone else. She said, I'm going to climb Everest. Not someday, not metaphorically, literally. And no one clapped. No one believed her. They called it a coping mechanism, delusion. She called it her mission. She trained with a prosthetic leg. She climbed for 52 days. She faced storms, ice, death zones, and still kept climbing, until she stood at the top of the world. Not because she forgot her pain, because she refused to let it define her. That's what the line does. It separates those who wait for their life to change from those who decide to change it. And maybe your Everest isn't a mountain. Maybe it's walking away from what's comfortable. Maybe it's starting something before you feel ready. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for not getting it right the first time. But whatever it is, it starts the moment you stop seeking permission and start speaking truth. And the truth is, you've outgrown the version of yourself that doubts. You've been wearing a smaller life like a costume. You've been playing roles written by fear. And deep down you're tired. That tired isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the part of you that's ready to rise. So draw the line, not in sand that can be swept away, but in the steel of your will. Because the second you say, "This is not how my story ends," the plot changes. And so do you. Everyone wants the breakthrough, but no one wants to build the road. They want the views from the top, but not the silence of the climb. They want to be praised for the result, but not ignored through the process. They want to be recognized without ever being tested. But real growth is not cinematic. It's not convenient. It's made of days that look like failure, of moments where the progress is invisible, of choices no one sees, but that you make anyway, brick by brick. One early morning when you didn't hit snooze, one hard conversation you didn't run from, one rep, one word, $1 saved, when no one would have blamed you for quitting. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards endurance. Not how hard you start, but how long you stay in the fight. And this is where most people fall off. Not because they're weak, but because they expected quick. They thought consistency would feel inspiring. They didn't know it would feel like boredom, like doubt, like nothing's happening. But everything's happening under the surface, inside your wiring, around the next corner. Because every swing that doesn't break the wall is still weakening it. Every rep without a result is still making you stronger. Dashrath Manji didn't move a mountain in one day. He chipped away, ignored the laughter, ignored the silence. One swing, then another, for 22 years. Not because he liked pain, but because he believed the pain meant progress. And if you don't believe yet, borrow this truth. Your results are waiting on the other side of unreasonable discipline. That means swinging the hammer, even when the rock doesn't move. That means doing it again, even when you're not sure it's working. Because when you swing without reward, you're not just building a result, you're building you. Every swing is character. Every brick is a new belief. Every day is proof that you're still in motion when most have stopped. You won't remember every moment you showed up. But one day, you'll look around at the life you built and realize it didn't come from magic. It came from muscle memory, from patience, from sweat and silence. So building, slowly, quietly, relentlessly, because no one sees the wall fall until it does. But you will know exactly how it happened. It won't feel like victory when it arrives. You'll expect fireworks, a rush, something epic. But the truth is, most breakthroughs show up wearing the clothes of another ordinary day. It happens right after you almost gave up, right after the silence got too loud, right after you whispered, "Maybe this just isn't for me." And then, the crack in the wall, the call that changes everything, the message that says yes, the shift you almost stopped showing up for. But by then you're not the same person who started. Because the win doesn't make you strong. The wait did. The unanswered effort. The nights you kept going with no applause, no certainty, no guarantee. That's where your breakthrough began. Success isn't the prize. It's the mirror. It doesn't crown you. It reveals you. It shows the world what you've already become. And the ones who reach that moment, they're not the most talented, not the luckiest. They're the ones who refuse to let silence mean stop. That's the secret no one tells you. The moment you want to quit is never the end. It's the threshold. It's the final layer of resistance before the wall gives way. But most people never see it because they walk away when the reward still feels too far. So if it hurts, if it's heavy, if you're exhausted from carrying something that hasn't paid off yet, listen closely. You are closer than you think. And that feeling inside that says, I can't do this anymore, that's not a signal to stop. That's a signal that your old limits are breaking. Keep going. Even if it's messy, even if it's slow, even if it looks like failure. Because someday soon, when the doors swing open and the moment finally arrives, it won't feel like magic. It'll feel like justice. And you'll look back at the struggle and say, of course it had to be that hard. I was becoming someone no shortcut could create. This is your proof that pain didn't mean punishment. It meant preparation. And now you know something most never will. You didn't need permission to rise. You just needed the courage to stay in the fire long enough to find what was already inside you. And now that you've found it, you're just getting started. You've heard the words, you've seen the mountain, you've felt the weight, and now you know it was never about the obstacles. It was always about the decision. Because there comes a moment where inspiration has to become ignition, where you stop nodding your head and start moving your feet, where the fire doesn't just warm you, it drives you. That moment is now, not someday, not when it's easier, not after the fear fades. Now, because every second you wait is a vote for the version of you that never tried. And that version, he never climbs. She never breaks through. They never know what could have been. But you have the pen in your hand. You have the story still unfolding. You have this breath, this step, this chance. Right now, someone with half your resources, less clarity, and more doubt is building the life you keep imagining. And they're not doing it because they're ready. They're doing it because they're done waiting. You say you're not ready? Perfect. Start anyway. That's how every meaningful chapter begins, with a decision made in defiance of fear. So if this lit something in you, don't let it fade. Do something with it. Speak it. Move on it. Claim it. And if nothing else, write this in the comments for yourself and for someone else who needs it. I'm not finished yet. Because you're not. Because your story didn't peak early. Because your mountain hasn't seen your best climb. And if someone told you otherwise, let them watch. Because the life you were built for is not behind you. It's waiting. And the only thing it's waiting on is your move.